So one of the things, at least talking to some of our customer base, is just not having a plan, because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And as it relates to heat stress, until, OSHA stepped in with the national emphasis program on heat preparedness, there wasn't a lot of planning going on. What are some of the challenges, as far as planning to be successful as it relates to heat stress?
Well, one of the things that I found in talking to some linemen down in some hotter parts of the country, like Arizona, is that their plan is a daily thing. It's hot is a part of life. It is always hot there, and so every day their lifestyle is revolved around staying hydrated, even on days when they're not on the job, when they're just going to go mow their lawn.
Yeah.
And so that's just an example of just always being prepared. It's just making it part of your lifestyle.
Yeah. And and ultimately I believe it starts, Ken, you can probably talk on this, but it starts with culture. If you have that culture to actually plan.
It really is. And the culture to be able to build those habits, to communicate and to identify what hazards that your crew really does face. And you brought up OSHA, and OSHA did good at bringing the basics there, right?
Framework.
But it's not going to fit everybody. And we forget a lot of times safety in organizations, it's a checkbox, right? You have shade, you have water, but the conditions that are out of the field that the guys are going to be faced with, that takes them knowing, what those hazards are and what ways they have to get creative to mitigate those. Because when you're on the tower, there's no shade up there.
Yeah.
So you have to get creative to navigate those and to understand what you're actually trying to accomplish and not just checking a box.
Absolutely. And to go along those lines, again, not having a plan is planning to fail.
Yeah.
And if, most people, they focus more on inspecting their tools, inspecting their bucket, inspecting their truck, making sure it's ready to go and ready to perform. But their body, you have to approach it with a plan. And it's one of those things that, again, you might have a place where people can get shade, you might have water available, but by the time you even are thirsty, you're already down the path of dehydration. Again, most people don't have a plan for preparing their body. We talk about priming the pump. Why do you prime the pump? Is so it can, get ready to perform. Same thing with your body. If you've been at rest, all your blood is in your core, and the body's trying to be as efficient as possible from heart rate and pumping blood out to your organs. But when you get out there to perform work, you've got to get blood to the extremities. You got to get blood to the skin so it can dissipate the heat. And so preparing your body through a physical warm-up, ensuring that you have the right amount of hydration before you go out there. You have the right electrolytes. You have the right gear that's actually going to help dissipate the heat, and it's moisture wicking. All that stuff is so critical. And so planning to do that before you go out to do the work is absolutely critical, because you're not going to probably come down from a bucket and come down from a job halfway into a project to say, oh, I've got to get my electrolytes now, or I've got to warm up my body, or I better get some, a different shirt on. It's just not going to happen. The work is oftentimes a priority. So showing up to the job with a plan is absolutely critical.
So does the plan start that morning? Because I was talking to a safety manager, and he said, when we know it's going to be a hot day, we inform the crews days in advance that it's going to be a hot day on this day.
Yeah.
So start preparing your body days in advance. And then sometimes I'll come in on the hot day, and that morning I see them trying to hydrate, and I realize that they're already behind the eight ball.
100%. And the thing is, we're in Washington State. You get a handful of hot days a year, you know what I mean? But in Arizona, in the South, it is hot almost every single day. They're working environments that are above 80 degrees, and 80 degrees is kind of that threshold where your body starts to become stressed from a physiological standpoint. And so if you're in those environments, you've got to have a more comprehensive plan. It's a culture now. It's like, this is our morning ritual because we just know we're going to be working in those environments every day. Oftentimes I get asked, like, if you're to design the most ideal scenario from a preparation standpoint, what would that look like? And it goes back to preparing your body for the work. So doing some type of physical warm-up, probably dynamic moves so that you can take your joints through a full range of motion. What that does is it also gets your heart rate up. It gets your blood to your extremities. It's prepping your sweat glands to be able to start to dissipate heat because you're elevating your body temperature. Number 2 is thinking about that hydration plan. It's like, okay, we've got to start hydrating like hours before we even get into those situations where it's going to be the hottest part of the day. And it's not just water, it's the electrolytes. It's, in some cases, branched chain amino acids, some of these other things that are really going to help the body be able to adapt. And then it's looking at, the gear that I'm going to wear. Like, what fabrics can I be wearing that are actually going to help my body become more efficient at dissipating that heat, getting that sweat, the moisture away from my body. And then it also goes back to, some of the other stuff, like the shade, the access to water, break schedule, like all these things. It's an ecosystem. There's no one size fits all solution, but we have to be really thoughtful about that. So I think it really comes back to planning, developing a system, and communicating the why. Because if you just tell people, like, do this, do this, do this, no one's going to do it and they're going to be resistant. But when you actually educate people, and Dylan, that's why I appreciate you so much. And like, DragonWear is so focused on the education, then people will understand, okay, this is why I'm going to do it. And it helps them make those informed choices and buy into it. And the frontline workers are the most influential people when it comes to their peers in terms of them being encouraged to make good decisions too. So I think that's key.
I think where we fail for the most part is we give them instructions. Don't, like you mentioned earlier, we don't tell them why. And human beings from the very beginning were biologically designed to understand the why. That's why anybody with kids, why, right? So we want to know the why, but we tell the how. Going through school, you get taught the how. And so now it's just instructions and outcome. And a lot of times, like it causes false assurance that you're just checking the box that you're going to be protected. And that's not the case. So instead of giving them the plan or the instructions, give them the why so they understand what they're being protected from so that they can make the right choices. Because like you said, it is dynamic. Every conditions out there changes. It's fast paced. It's dangerous. And, things turn on a second. So you have to be able to understand why you're doing this, what you're trying to protect to actually get the goal that you're trying to achieve. So just understanding the why.
And, having had that experience as a frontline worker, then a foreman, supervisor, and now working with companies, what have you seen as the key thing to getting that frontline worker buy-in, especially when it comes from the connection between the executive or the leadership team and the frontline workers?
To get the biggest connection, it's really giving them a voice. It's listening to your frontline workers and not treating them like the police officer that pulled you over on your way because you're 5 miles over, right? It's giving you a voice to say, well, this condition was here and that I'm trying to avoid. Nobody comes to work trying to cause an accident or trying to cause trouble. Everybody wants to do good. So giving them the voice where they can express what they're seeing and feel safe to bring up an issue or potential issue that's coming down. And that's what really all it comes down to, is just that psychological safety that you're going to give the guys in the field so that they can be empowered to make the right choices. And you're going to listen to them and adapt, because it's not checkbox.
Yeah, that's great feedback.